shouldn't have 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old girls DMing me asking me why black guys don't deem them attractive or see them as attractive or respect them or like them. So not only is it our men being disrespectful and degrading us, it's also other groups and other races being disrespectful and degrading us and thinking that it's okay since our men do it. Because majority of the men talking about, oh, I like my women light skin, I like my women red bone, I like my women mixed, da 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 da, are as dark as the top of my concealer. I'm not trying to split us up or split up black people and black men and black women. Like, that's not my intention at all. And people love to say that when in the end, you're using the fact that I'm bringing this up as an excuse to push these issues under the rug, and you're trying to avoid having an uncomfortable conversation that you don't want to have, and I'm sick of it.
Good afternoon and happy Monday. Welcome back to another episode of Black versus the Board of Education. I'm just waiting for my co-host to go ahead and turn on their cameras so we can see what they look like, because I know they're here. Anyway, it's Monday. That means we're coming to you with another topic. And this topic, I told them that, we have to approach it in a certain type of way. So we have no stories for you at the top of the hour. So we're going to go ahead and go to introductions. Melissa, go ahead and kick us off. And then we will introduce our special guests who were brave enough to join us today.
Hi guys, my name is Melissa. I'm a 14-year-old freshman in Southern California and really excited about this conversation.
Perfect. Miss Adia.
Hi, my name's Adia and I'm a sophomore in the Sacramento area.
Miss Janice, go ahead and say hey, hey, hey.
Hi, my name is Janice and I am a 14-year-old in the Sacramento region.
Perfect. And Miss Anaya, go ahead and round us out.
Hi, everybody. My name is Anaya, and I'm an incoming junior.
Incoming junior? Y'all think y'all grown? What? You said that the other day, and I'm like, how? It's all good. So we're talking about, what are we talking about this week? What are we talking about? This was your topic, Miss Anaya. What are we talking about this week?
So I wanted to bring up the fact how I see a lot of the times Black boys degrading Black women and saying that they rather have a white girl than a Black girl as their partner or spouse or girlfriend, whatever.
Okay. And so the show is entitled Am I My Brother's Keeper? Because you also brought up the fact that a lot of times Black women and girls are on the forefront of some of these movements. And so we'll get into that as well. But we couldn't have this conversation responsibly without adding some gentlemen to the panel. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Oh, there they go. Hey, hey, hey. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and then we can get into the discussion. Why don't you go ahead and kick us off, Mr. Smith?
How y'all doing? My name is Sean. I go to Northern Arizona University and I'm 20 years old.
And I'm...
Okay. Come on, Keelan.
I'm going into my second year of college at Stanislaus State University.
And I think I may have cut you off. Did you say your name was Keelan Archie?
Keelan Archie.
Keelan Archie. Well, welcome to the discussion, because I know we got into it this morning at the office when we were kind of brainstorming about this topic. And if I could, I want to just it's one of those things, right? So we never want to be put in a position where it seems like there are some infighting, right? We never want to come across as if we're attacking Black men and boys, but we're just coming from a place of trying to understand. And this is not a conversation really that is directed about the school per se, but it is kind of school related, because you guys are going to the same campuses and you are seeing certain things that are happening and you're trying to understand why. So, gentlemen, do you prefer white women over Black women? And I'm just gonna go straight forward. Let's get into it. Did you?
Yeah, no, I had a muted version. Preferably, I love my black queens. That's just me, though. I can't speak for everyone else.
And I got to go with Sean on this one. I can definitely say as I've gotten older and started to realize the importance of the mental aspect of a relationship, I am more drawn to black women than I am for other races.
Now, some folks would kind of side eye you a little bit. Some people who may have known you in high school may side eye you a little bit because they can look at your behavior on campus and say, well, that's, you say that now, but that's not what we saw from you. So can you kind of give us an idea of what was going on in high school where you didn't particularly gravitate towards black girls?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can definitely say when I was younger, growing up, as far as looking through media, looking through, what's on TVs or what's in music videos, you're definitely saturated with this, not anti-black, but though the girls in the video are not going to be your typical black girls, right? So growing up and seeing that on a daily basis, when it came to choosing like girlfriends, it was almost easier to see other races as dating material because of how often you see it in media. And
yeah, and my question was, you said they were not typical black girls. Can you explain that to people who may be listening? What does not typical black girls mean?
So you, at least in the music videos, you get you get your stereotypical red bone, or the black girl who has naturally straight hair, or, stuff of that nature. And I can honestly say, and I may be wrong, I have yet to meet a single black girl with naturally straight hair. It doesn't typically happen, at least in my life. But you're conditioned to see things that aren't real, and then look for them in your high school or wherever you're going, as far as dating wise, and you typically see those traits in other races.
Okay. And so, ladies, can you, or you were saying something, Janice? Okay, go ahead.
Yes,
what were you about to say, Mama?
I was getting ready to jump in because honestly, I can foresay sometimes I could see why it will be our black males not really gravitating toward us. Sometimes because a lot of the times when we're in schooling, especially like high school, middle school, everyone's finding themselves. And especially when it comes to being a female and being a black female, a lot of more so student body gravitates toward us because, oh, you're the black girl, or you're that one black girl. So then it's more so you hang out with a lot of people, you hang out with a lot of different people, and then sometimes your crowd isn't the right crowd. And then when they see you in your crowd, and sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, the crowds, y'all be cutting up, especially when we're surrounded by people who aren't our races, and people that aren't in our races, they don't have to deal with the problems we deal with. So they get to cut up with no disciplinary that, like, no consequence for their cutting up. But us, we are treated differently. We are, disciplined differently. So it's just like when we're finding ourselves, I can somewhat understand why the black males, some of them wouldn't gravitate toward us. But then at the end of the day, it isn't fair, because then you'll see Redbone cutting up and y'all would think that's attractive or that's cute. But then when you see a black girl cutting up, we're ratchet, we don't know how to act, we're ghetto, all the other things. So I want to know where that comes from. Is there like is that what the homeboys talk about in the group chats? Is that what the teams be talking about? Because it be them teams, y'all athletes, let me tell you. So I want to know, I'm curious.
So I'm trying to understand the question.
I think I get what she's saying. I don't know her experience with athletes or what she got against us. Like, we're gonna leave that over there.
Yeah, athletes are a different story. Hold on.
Yeah, but I think it stems back to that, like, again, what you're conditioned to see in media, right? And I can definitely say, or at least from my take on it, it's more of not it's acceptable, as far as when a Redbone is doing it, but it's almost become, go ahead.
Time out. Now, there are some folks who are from outside of our community trying to figure out what y'all talking about are red bones and regular black girls. So I'm going to need you all to understand that everybody doesn't know what you're talking about. So when you say red bone, you're talking about the lighter complected black women. When you say regular black girls, you're talking about the darker complected black women. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, black women and girls. Okay,
Yeah,
so
That is just the same.
y'all got to understand that everybody doesn't know what you're talking about. So go ahead, Keelan. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to make that point.
No, you're fine. You're fine. But yeah, I believe it stems from, watching our black girls who are of the lighter complexion in these music videos or in these, TV shows. And honestly, it's become a desensitized sexualization of it because now, because we see it so often, and our black girls who are of lighter skin are typically not seen, reading the books or doing the homework. They're typically seen in the bikinis taking pictures, for the music video, right? So then you turn around and you see our darker skinned black girls doing it, and we see what's wrong with it, but it's wrong in the same degree as if it was a lighter skinned girl. We just, because of how media has portrayed it to us, it's almost become as an acceptable sexualization.
So I do agree with the whole media aspect. I see our youth now as more, they follow trends. They're not really trendsetters, they follow trends. So whatever they do see on the media, they think that's what's in. And so typically it's not a sense of formal attractions, it's more a sense following a trend of what is to be. And when they see all these rappers out here, who they're with, they're following that trend because they possibly think that's in. It's not really a formal attraction. It's more mental than physical.
Well, Janice, you brought up something very interesting, and I think that we talked about this earlier in the office. There are certain behaviors that are accepted from girls who are lighter complected than there are of the dark skinned black girls. And that book that was covered in the Push Out by Monique, Dr. Monique. I can't even think of her name, but this phenomenon, it dates back really. It has historical origins, right? The house in the field niggers, right? That's what it was. The ones who were of the lighter shade were allowed to be in the house closer to probably their father or their master, right? And then the darker ones were kept out in the field. And so for some reason, because of proximity, proximity to whiteness, there are certain behaviors that are allowed from certain groups of black folks that would not be allowed from the opposite end of the spectrum. So how does that kind of show up in your life, Adia? Being one of the lighter complected young ladies, how does colorism show up in your life in day to day? How does that affect you?
Yeah, so I think light skin privilege is like definitely a real thing, especially in the Black community. When you're lighter, you're obviously like treated very, very differently. I think sometimes like I'm very when I talk to like school officials and stuff like that, and I'm talking about school, I'm very like, I'm never labeled as like aggressive or anything like that. You know what I mean? No matter what I do. Two, I think like I hear a lot of like colorist things people will say. And then it's like, I hear like kind of stuff about like coming, like about me, like, oh, you have the good hair. You know what I mean? And kind of like, what does that mean? You know, who has the bad hair? And like a lot of things degrading dark-skinned Black women. So yeah, I think it definitely plays a role in school, you know what I mean? Like how I'm treating and how I'm labeled. And also just like how I'm seen by Black men and just other men in general.
So I'm assuming they assume that you're mixed. So do you get that question often? And how do you respond?
Yeah, so most people just assume like I'm Black and white, and when they ask, I'm just like, yeah, Black and white. I mean, there's no, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Melissa, how does colorism show up in your experience, do you believe?
I've been asked if I was mixed because of my hair. I used to wear my hair like natural and my afro and curls a lot. And when I was little, I remember we walked into a store and we were checking out, and the cashier was like, oh, asked my mom, oh, is her dad white? Like, what is she mixed with something because of my hair? And it just makes me think that it's degrading people who aren't mixed, because it's like, why do I have to be mixed to have the kind of hair that I do, you know? And like you were saying,
I feel like
Denise, what about you?
Oh, for me, I was writing to them down about it. I personally always had a lot of experiences because one of like my closest friends, like she's been my best friend since 3rd grade. So we went through same elementary school, same middle school. So we went through the schooling process together. Y'all all know how the educational system is. But then when it comes to us hanging out and then us being around teachers, when she would do something or say something, kids, our peers, especially our males, I wouldn't say they were all black because my school was very diverse, but they'd always view her as, oh, she's ratchet. Oh, she's loud. And then when I would do the same thing, they would be like, oh, who made her mad? Or, oh, what's wrong with her? And it was like a difference in how they would treat us, how they would view us, and how they would, address us and what they would call us to be. Like I would hear people sometimes, because sometimes we wouldn't always be together. And I'd hear people, oh, the ratchet one who be hanging with the little lighter one. And it's just like, that's my best friend. We do the same thing. So if she's ratchet, I'm ratchet then. But it's because of her darker complexion, they will label her as, oh, her actions, oh, she's ratchet, oh, she's ghetto. But more say, if I were to do the same thing, some people, they would just look at me and kind of, push forward. But then she would get the label, oh, ratchet, oh, ghetto. And it's very upsetting because it's just like other races and you see other colors doing the same thing, but it's just like, we're not all treated the same, and our consequences are definitely not the same, because I've watched her get screamed at by our math teacher for doing one of the things I did, and all he did was tell me to calm down. Literally, he told me to sit in my seat and calm down, and then he yelled at her in front of the whole class. And I can tell it wasn't more so because of what we did, because the action was still the same. Honestly, I think what I did was kind of worse. And he screamed at her in front of the whole class. So it just shows to say how we're treated very different, especially with, her being darker and me being a little bit lighter.
Anaya?
So I can agree with Melissa. When I was younger, people used to ask my mom if my dad was white because of how light I was. It's like we'd be in the store and people would be like, oh, is her dad white? Because my mom was darker than me, not by like a lot, but when you're younger, you're a little bit lighter than you are until you get, more sun and whatnot. So yeah, people used to ask my mom that, and she's like, well, what if he is like, why do you need to ask that? So I think that's like the only experience that I can think of. But I also had a question for just in general, and for the boys, if they want to answer this, or the men, if they want to answer this, how they were saying in media, how that creates the mindset for the black men. But I don't have that experience to know that, but my question is it the media, or is it some black men truly hating what they look like and they take that out on black girls? Because I feel like, society saying all this about the black men, and then them saying, oh, well, let me escape that. Let me go have mixed babies. Yeah, that's my question.
All right, go ahead.
Because I definitely would have missed that. I have to commend that question, absolutely. And I can definitely see where that would play a role as far as not being comfortable in not only your own masculinity, but your own race and in your own skin, and seeing an interracial relationship almost as an outlash towards it. Because if I don't like it in me, then I'm not going to like it in my son. And if I don't like it in my son, then I'm not going to be able to raise my son. So let me give him an upper hand in life and reach outside of my race and try to see if that's better. I can definitely see where our own insecurities would be the one to paint that picture. That's a good point. I would have missed that one. I like that.
And Lex, you said yes, Anaya. So what do you mean? What are you agreeing with?
Okay. Sorry if I'm lagging. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I have definitely experienced. Okay, good. I've seen plenty of videos all everywhere about Black men, going out in the world and saying, oh, I prefer a light skin over a dark skin, or I would much rather date someone outside of my race. And a lot of times the things they say is also very degrading. So it's not like they're just saying, I'm going to date outside my race because it's a broader spectrum and I want to get out there and explore more. They're saying that, but they're also degrading their own race. And so I'm questioning, where is that hate coming from? And so I think maybe they're not as confident in themselves. So they're spewing that hate outward by going not only outside of the race to date other people, but to do this in spite of their own race, so to say, because they're not confident in themselves. They're gonna go out and say, like, I don't want to say your name wrong. Keelan.
Mm-hmm.
Keelan said, they don't want to affect their babies because they say, if their babies are going to look like me, I don't want to be in that family, in that surrounding, in that area. So they're like, let me not do that to myself and my child. I'm going to go outside of my race because I'm not comfortable with myself in my own skin.
Well, I think the bigger question would be, where does that come from? And of course, we can't assume that Keelan and Sean speak for every Black boy or Black man out there. But, oh, you got your hand up. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, aside from the insecurities of Black men, I was going to ask, do you think it's probably from a personal experience they had with the Black woman that makes them be like, oh, man, I need something else? Like they have like back.
Anaya said no.
No, because this one boy who went to my school, he's Black. He never dated a Black girl, and then all he dated was Asian girls. So I don't think it's a bad experience. It's just the lack of wanting it.
Okay,
or a preference, right? It could be a preference. Yes, Janice?
It could be a preference. Everybody has their preferences. Like, we all like what we like. And, some people, when they like what they like, they don't want to try something different. But I remember there was a time when being dark-skinned was a bad thing for Black males and Black women. There was a time to where before our society was more to the self-love movements, embracing ourselves, embracing our people, there was a time where people would kind of just be like, oh, he's dark-skinned. Like, oh, girl, you like him? He's dark-skinned? Like, oh, you got the dark skin. And that's how we will label our brothers. We'd be like, oh, darky. Or I've heard people call Black males blackie and stuff like that. So it's just like, as ladies, sometimes we can't necessarily be so upset towards the men because they have been conditioned to what we say about them too. Like, honestly, sometimes I couldn't technically be mad or knock a male for not preferring to deal with a Black girl, but it's just like, you haven't dealt with every Black girl in the universe. So you know what? Pipe it down, sir. But it's just like we were disrespectful to them at one point too. So we can't technically be as upset about the disrespect because we used to discriminate against them too. Before this thing was dating Black men was a trend, and before it was more so you see all the celebrities doing it, it wasn't like this. Like, more so brown skin dated brown skin, stuff like that. And girls weren't really as into dark skins. And honestly, we kind of used to knock them and not want to stay away from them. So I could kind of see why Black males would kind of want to, stay away from the Black girls, because honestly, sometimes we can be very mean.
I want to jump in next, if that's okay. So first thing, the thing you're saying, about having like a bad experience with a Black girl. I mean, I just think that's kind of an excuse sometimes, because I feel like nobody says that about any other race. Like, I had a bad experience with a white girl. I had a bad experience with a Latina girl, something like that. Like, nobody ever says that. So I feel like it's only comes like, oh, I want to date white girls now. Oh, Black girls were mean to me in middle school type thing. Like, I don't know. I just think that's somewhat an excuse. And then second, kind of like what Janice was talking about like also talking about like Black women on the other side of it. I think we also need to check like Black women's colorism at the end of the day, because a lot of, not even Black women, just other races in general too, but a lot of people will, nowadays you see them preferring like dark-skinned men. And usually, not always, but usually that's because dark-skinned men are viewed as like more masculine, more manly, blah, 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 right? So on the flip side, that robs dark-skinned Black women of their femininity. So I just think, like, kind of like what Denise said, I think we both need to check ourselves at the end of the day. But I think colorism is still very relevant, not only in Black males, but also in Black women.
That's a good point.
I agree with what Dee was saying. I think it was a good point, and I think that society sees Black people as a monolith. So if there is an experience, like he said, with one Black girl, they're going to see every single Black girl as that, not just the dark-skinned girls, but the light-skinned girls too. So maybe they will want to date white women. So they see us as a monolith, and that's problematic.
Yes, a monolith is problematic because I don't think that we've ever really looked at the things around us, right? And the fact that we have presented ourselves as a monolith and we've allowed them to kind of put us in this one big basket, not looking at culture, not looking at where other Black folks may have been from, not taking in the richness of everything around us, but all just everybody's this way. And that has robbed us, I think, of some relationship building that we could have been doing between one another. I also think that, especially in the school setting, that there are things, like you said, Janice, things that are tolerated from students who are lighter complected as opposed to their counterparts. And there are things that darker skinned children are overly punished, right? And they're not given the benefit of the doubt. They're seen as older than they actually are. They're seen as not having the capacity to deal with pain. That's all Black children. But for the most part, darker skinned Black children, don't let them be bigger in terms of, not skinny. Don't let them be bigger and older than, and look older, because then they're dealt with harsher. So do you think that there's something that we can say to administrators or to teachers to how they can better deal with Black students? Or do you think that we have to work within ourselves to figure out how we can better relate to one another so that when we see it happen, we can jump on it right at that moment? What do you guys think?
I feel like us seeing each other, as all, because honestly, before I was in BYLP, I was a different person. And now that I have learned to accept my people, love on my people, and see how amazing I was, because I used to do gymnastics. I used to be around people that weren't my color. I went to gymnastics in an area that was predominantly white, so I wasn't around people of my color. So kind of when I viewed Black people, I didn't view us of, now how I see my people, I see a Black male, oh, that's my brother, as a brother or sister. Oh, okay, are they straight? Are they good? I'd want to check in on them. But then I kind of view them as, okay, I kind of see a Black man, I kind of get a little scared because that's what I was around. I didn't know better. I didn't know that my people were as loving as we are, because that's not what we're portrayed as. You looked in the news, you looked in the media, and I wasn't around Black people. All I seen was the news and the media. The media portrays us as monsters. So I would have never knew. But now that I'm a part of BYLP and that I have something that to connect me to my people, that allows me to know we're all amazing, we're brilliant, we're kind, we're loving. But we have to, access that part of us and start to be that part of ourselves, because when you don't have love for yourselves, you can't show love to other people. So honestly, when I see a Black male or I encounter one that isn't as loving or just is more so hard as a person, I wouldn't more so be like, oh, let me stay away from him. You've gone through something. Conditionally, something has occurred in your life. So I feel like the more we get connected with ourselves, the more we're able to tell administration, treat that dark-skinned boy how you would treat the white one. Treat us how you would treat the Latina kid or the Asian kid. And the more we're connected we get together, and the more we can stand together, the more administration can see, okay, what we're doing is not right. How we just addressed him is not right. And if we can accept each other, we're able to address the administration for them. Why would you just do that to him? We can step in for our peers, but we have to connect with our peers in order to step in for them.
That's what's up.
I want to add on to what Janice was saying.
Okay.
Lex. Because I can directly relate to that. I'm lighter. My sister's darker than me. And so when we go out a lot, she's always like, why is this guy staring at me? He's staring at me. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, he's staring at you? I couldn't even tell I didn't have any correlation. And, a lot of times we'd go out and these things would happen and we'd have no idea why. But like Jenny said, when we started into BYLP, we started understanding how a lot of people perceive us and how people look at us. So now when they look at us, we know why they're looking at us. We can look back and we can tell them to stop looking at us. And so you kind of can start to understand what exactly it is, why people are targeting us, and then what we can do to stop it or put a cushion in front of it so it's not as intense, and so we're not as affected by it. So once people start getting more into our own community and talking to each other and seeing how we could bounce ideas off of each other, how we can go out to the world with a different perspective and a different understanding of why it is the way it is, I think then we could start speaking to our admin and all these other higher ups to say, stop doing this because you're damaging our people, not just being a loud voice, but being a loud voice and having that message behind that as well.
Let me ask you something. You brought up the fact that you and your sister are different skin tones. Do you think your sister is treated differently than you are?
I would say yes. Not in there hasn't been a lot of situations that has occurred up front. It's taken me a little while in reflection to realize that we've been treated a little bit differently, but there definitely has been situations where I was kind of looked over and then she got a lot of the harsh punishment and discipline on her end.
I can relate to that. My sister is also darker than me. And even within our own family, I can see that they treat her differently when she's not outspoken, but she speaks her mind. But I do the same thing. And the way they react to it is much different. They think that she's being problematic and is talking too much. And so it's frustrating because, you know, I'm with BYLP. And so I was taught with you guys to, if you see something, you're going to say something and you're going to make sure you're saying it respectfully. But if you feel that's in your heart, you're going to say that. And my sister does the same thing, but she's darker than me. And I can see it within our family that when she says something, they think that it's a problem. But when I say something, it's not.
Yeah, I would agree with that because my sister is also darker than me. And that was brought to my attention. I never saw that. I didn't have that lens. But I realized that my sister, there is a way that she carries herself as to not be viewed as aggressive or she's very much she's what is that? The respectability politics, in my opinion. My sister is much more apt to go towards the respectability politics. Now, y'all that know me, you know that I'm a rebel and I say what I want to say the way that I say it, and then you will figure out what you want to do about it. But I think that I've been allowed to carry on in spaces that I don't believe my sister would have been allowed to carry on. There is a certain sort of privilege, I believe, that comes along with having lighter skin. I'm still a Black woman, and, you know, to white people, Black folks are all the same. We're monolith. But I do believe that there is a degree in which people handle me because we both worked at the Capitol. We both, you know, went through that tract. But there is a way that I see people talking to my sister that I would never accept. And so there's a different way that people respond to me as opposed to how they respond to my sister. And I think that growing up, she must have gotten somewhere that she could not speak the way that I speak, or she could not do things the way that I do things and still it be acceptable. So how do you guys feel? Do you think there's a certain, I know Adia does, do Janice and Anaya and Sean and Melissa and Lex, do you guys think that there is a privilege that comes along with being a lighter complected person? I mean, as the world sees us, you know, not just in the context of school, but period. Is there a privilege that you walk around in that you probably had not even considered before? What do you think, Anaya?
I'd say yes. Because, like, I have one friend and her mom is, both her parents are Black, but her mom is same color as me, and her dad is a little bit darker. So she looks just like her dad. So she has a darker skin complexion, but her brothers and her mom and everybody in her family are a little bit lighter than her. So then when we would go out, she would be with us and everything. And people would be looking at her and they're like, oh, are you like lost or something? Is that your family? And I'm like, why are they saying that? Like, I'm not related to them. I'm like, why are they not saying that to me? They all like look alike and everything. And then when I grew up, I finally realized like that's the reason. That's why. because of our skin color.
Melissa, what do you think? Is there a privilege that exists that we probably weren't aware of? We just thought we was all black?
I think there is definitely a privilege, and I think it didn't necessarily start with the brown paper bag test, but that has that's part of it. That was deliberately put into place to divide the Black community. And
now for those who don't know what you're talking about, again, what are you referring to when you say the paper bag test?
So the brown paper bag test was where your skin color would get compared. Each Black individual skin color would get compared to a brown paper bag, which we know is a relatively light colored bag. If your skin matched or was lighter than the bag, you were essentially more likely to be accepted in society than a person with darker skin.
Okay. And I remember reading about that brown paper bag test in a book called Our Kind of People. If you've not read that, please go get that. It's about the Black boule. And for those of y'all, there's like the upper class people and then the middle class. These were the upper class people, the ones that had access to wealth and they thought themselves to be better or higher than other folks. But it was a good book. I enjoyed the book. Janice, what do you think?
I completely agree, like 100%, because when in the media, like usually lighter complected women, we're seen often. Literally, like you'll see the rappers, the influencers, they flaunt their brown skin. They'll flaunt their light skin, but it's more so when it comes to dark skins, we're not really praised as much as our lighter sisters. Like dark skinned women, they're not praised as much as us, lighter people. Like it's usually more so I would see in the media, white men flaunt dark skins more than the Black men do. Simply because of more so, I don't know if it's popular, I don't know where the root of it comes from, but it's just like we're seen in society more as a prize, more of a greater prize than our sisters who would be darker than us. And it's not fair. It's very unfortunate because we're all amazing, but that's not how the world sees it. And that's not how we're viewed. And that's not how we're treated either.
Sean, what do you think?
I'm multitasking over here. So I feel as if when someone sees something that's different, they see
different
power.
How? Different how? You said different how?
Different as in something they're not used to, something that seems alien to them, perhaps. When people see that, I feel as if they see power, and when people see power, they get highly intimidated. So, seeing that, I'm over here. My mind is a million places at once.
Boy, you gotta focus. See, you gotta focus. This is the thing. So you're saying that when they see something different, they see power. When you talk about different, are you saying when they see non-Black women?
I see. Are you talking about women? Or are you talking about just Black?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm trying to figure it out.
I'm talking about color. I'm talking about color.
Oh.
Yeah. Because you're talking about dark skins, right?
I wasn't particularly, but we can go there. I'm saying, do you think that there's a privilege that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I was pretending that too. Basically,
okay.
Usually when people see something that's alien to them, they see something different. They see something that's powerful. And people are usually intimidated by that power. So there's a certain privilege that they get. There's a certain air that they have when they walk into a room that's like, I'm gonna stay away, or they'll be attracted to it if you can kind of. And that's kind of.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that's kind of how it is, especially being a Black man walking into a certain room with people.
Okay, so walking into the room as a Black man, you feel powerful, or you see other things.
You see how other people react when you do walk into a room, depending on what room you walk into.
Okay, and do you think that women flock to you?
No, not at all. Not
at all.
That's a different topic though. But no, not at all.
Okay. That's interesting because I know y'all were out earlier today and y'all were doing some community outreach. And I know that, you was getting flocked to, but anyway, that is a different conversation. So ladies, when we were talking yesterday, you say that Black men or Black boys, they say they don't want Black girls, but then they go for non-Black girls with the same features. Who was that said that? Anaya?
No, it was Dee who said that.
It was who?
I think I said it.
Lydia? Okay. What did you mean by that?
Well, yeah, I just see like a lot of Black men say like they would never date a Black girl, they're too loud, they're too getter, blah 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 blah, and then they date a white woman that like literally makes their whole personality trying to be like a Black woman. Like they be using African American vernacular English, they be out here getting like what's it called? They be out here getting implants, they be out here getting big lips, they be out here getting box braids, all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, do you really not like Black women, or what is going on? Because they just date a white woman that like basically does everything they can to look like a Black woman.
Yeah, and I think yesterday we referred to that as the Kim Kardashian effect. Because for some reason, and personally, my personal opinion, and if anybody gets offended, you'll work that out. I think that some of these girls are walking sirens, and they have this type of, I don't know what type of hold these Kardashian girls have on these Black men. Like I can't for the life of me figure that out. I can't figure out why out of all the women in the whole entire world, these girls keep landing these basketball players who must not have any sense. Like or these rappers or whoever it else that they got a whole lineup that done ran through, and they still are never, they're never pushed to the side. They never take a break. They just keep running these Black men through. And I'm trying to figure out what type of potion they got and how do we eradicate it? Because I'm not sure what's happening, because there's nothing. I don't know what they have to offer. I don't know why particularly they're famous. I've seen some of the recent stuff that Kim has done in criminal justice, and I applaud that, but I'm still trying to figure out why they're famous for what they've been able to do and conquer with Black men. And so I think that what we're seeing is a whole different type of generation that aims to be these women and aims to have what they see these women have, without kind of the real of what they went through to achieve the looks that they have now, because it wasn't natural.
I 100% agree, because we see, honestly, I encounter a lot of people, especially like young ladies and stuff, and I hear the side comments that are made like, oh, I want to work out, or I want to do this. I've heard people say, especially my older family members, I have part of my family where I went to a party and almost every woman at that party had either a BBL, lipo, or had something done. And it's just like, it's very crazy to me, because it's just like, why? Like, I don't understand where the root comes from, especially when if you are insecure, it's an inside problem. It's not, no matter how many butt shots you get, no matter how many breast jobs you get, no matter how many times they stick the little thing in your lip and make them bigger, like, you're still going to have that problem. You're still going to be empty. And that is exactly why once people start getting lipo, they continue to get more and more and more, especially when they can't afford that. And we see it on the media, and we see, oh, well, Kim K, look, she just got this done, she just got that done, or look at that. And it's just like, we got people going in debt trying to follow the trend that they can't even maintain, because once you get something done in a few years, it's not going to look like that. So you're going to have to get something done. You're going to have to work out to maintain it. Something's going to have to give. In your pockets, a lot of the time, women working a mediocre salary, getting paid time to time, for what they do, they can't afford to be spending 15 to 25 grand to get lipo done and redone and maintained. And personal trainers cost.
You're right. So there's just a whole bunch of layers. It's like an onion, and you have to keep pulling back the layers, because what they're saying that they want or what they're gravitating to is not even something that was developed naturally. You know what I mean? And that's a problem. And you're right. It goes into the whole debt, and then you have people, on social media, Black women even trying now to get butt injections and butt lifts and doing all these things to keep up with something, but it's affecting their health, or they're dying, because that ain't supposed to happen. And so when we're talking about, you know, people being attracted to different things, and we're talking about Black men and what their responsibility is. And I saw Lex, I think you were unmuting. So go ahead, you can unmute and I'll finish my sentence. When we're talking about the things that we see going on and we're looking at what our brothers are gravitating towards, and we're sitting here, and when the stuff hits the fan, we're one of the first ones out there trying to protect them. What message does that send to you as young ladies? What message does that send to you? Do you think your help is valued? And I'll pose that question.
I would say no, because I feel like we go out there, we're doing these things to attract males. They still avoid us and turn their eyes away. You know, they're like, oh, I want this, I don't want you, so stop trying. And then something happens to them, and then we're supposed to be there to help pick them up. And the media always like the big sister or the person who's always grieving because something happens to our Black boys or our Black men. And we're always, you don't see the white people or the other people that they're attracted to or out there for standing up for them to the same degree as we do. And we're also not shown in media as being upset or like just wishing that these things didn't happen, picking them up. It's always us. I think Black women always get the tail end of it. We're always seen as upset in the media because of something that happened to this person, and they never show us in a positive light with our Black men. They always make it negative, and we're always grieving, so it makes us not want to be there. It makes us feel like we're not valued. And then they ask, why are you a single mother and why isn't your father here with you? Because the media is making it seem like relationships aren't valued at the end of the day.
So you just brought up a whole nother issue, and I don't think we have time to delve into that because you know there's just like, it's just so much, and I'm trying to keep us focused, and of course we're just veering every which way because there's so many different layers to the complexities of relationships between Black men and Black women. And of course, when we got on here, we said that we didn't want to use this platform to be seen as one that we're competing or we're trying to down the Black men or the Black boys. What we're trying to do is understand, because point blank period, I ain't going nowhere. I'm always going to fight for Black children, Black boys, regardless of how they act, because they deserve a champion too. But I do think that it is one of those things where you're trying to figure out what gives, right? At the end of the day, like, I'm expending all of this energy. I'm doing what I'm not seeing other people reciprocating. And yet, and still, there's not the same energy all the time. And I think what y'all are asking for is the same energy, Janice.
Exactly. Because honestly, when things go down, it's more so in us to stand behind our people than it is in the other races to, you know, back us up. Honestly, outside of my BYLP community, I feel like it is very unappreciated how hard Black women go for Black men when it comes to hardships, injustices, like mental awareness, like things like that. I feel like Black men, they don't really appreciate it. Like, they don't see it as something that doesn't have to be done for them. They think, oh, well, y'all should be doing that, or y'all have to be doing that, or they don't even acknowledge it at all. And it's unfortunate because we have Black people who do so much empowering work when it comes to criminal justice reforms, helping people. But then you see Kim K get completely praised for her little thing, like praised, honored, like she was Jesus who walked on water. But we have Black women doing 10 times more and risking their lives, risking their safety, because they don't like when Black people do this. They don't like when Black people fight for our people, and they sometimes go without getting any acknowledgement. So it's just like, it's kind of ridiculous to me, like, very, because they expect that army behind them, but then they don't give it to us when we're in need. They don't even show us love. This is more so,
Now, do you agree with that statement, Sean? Do you agree that Black men don't show Black women love or the same type of love?
Like I said, I can't really speak for every Black man.
And we don't expect you to. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I just had to put that in the air, because me personally, I do appreciate my Black women standing beside me. on the aspect though of, I think it was being overlooked for like what you have given us, and I've seen someone in the chat say something about it being matched. I feel like people come from personal experience. Me, I'm typically a nice guy, so when I do meet a Black woman and I do commit that niceness, it is overlooked because there's a certain way. I feel like most women, they want a strong man. Obviously, they want a strong man, but seeing how the media is, I feel like the definition of a strong Black man gets kind of misconstrued depending on who's watching what. So it's kind of a case by case scenario based on who watches what and what their audience is and who they're looking up to. So I've always been told I'm too nice, so I get overlooked.
Oh. Yeah. Okay, so you talking about that whole women want a bad boy type vibe, then not the nice guys. Okay, okay. See, that's a whole nother one. See, I told you it's some layers.
It's the whole rabbit hole. It's a whole conglomerate of a lot of things. Honestly, you can get pulled every which way, so it is kind of hard to. If you see what I'm saying, but
yeah.
But I do appreciate my Black women. I do appreciate. I mean, I know my girl supports me to a fault. So I do really appreciate it. But me and my mother used to talk about this a lot, especially if I ever did have interest in a woman of another race. And she would be like, she'd always ask me that question, do you feel like you need to do more for her than you need to do for your, like, your past relationships? And it's like, no, because I judge people by the content of their character. I'm a reciprocator. So whatever you give to me, I give back to you.
Right. Okay.
That's me.
Yeah.
From what I see, like I said, it's a lot of trends. It's really a lot of people following what the next person is doing, or like what they see on music videos or the media. But that's just what I'm seeing. It's like,
I ain't seen no music videos in years, so I don't know if I could go for that. I don't know about that. Like I said, the 90s, I think they did a whole disservice to Black women with the the exotic women. Melissa, you were unmuting. What were you going to say, love?
I wanted to add something to the whole Kim Kardashian thing. I think that people want to be, I've said it before and I'll say it again, they want to be us without the struggle. So they'll get the body and whatever, they'll pay for that, but will they be out there fighting for the Black people that they want to be? So, we are beautiful, strong people, not just Black women, but Black people as a whole. And then white people or even other Black people see that beauty and that lifestyle and they hate it and they envy it. So, that kind of ties together everything that everyone has been saying.
Yeah, I just think that we have to be careful with how we are trying to relate what it is that we're trying to say. Like, we have to be clear that this is not a platform to attack anybody. It's just, again, putting the issues out there so that we can talk about them in an open forum and try to get some understanding, because there's a lot of things that we don't know and we don't see how the other person is interpreting the actions that are being put forth. And Didi, I did see you unmuting, and Janice, I saw you too. So go ahead, Didi.
I was just going to talk about kind of like earlier what Janice was talking about like Kim Kardashian, like doing the criminal justice reform, like her getting praise, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I was just going to say like, too, like I often hear the argument like, oh, like I only want to date white women because I feel like they appreciate me more, or whatever. But like you kind of look and like what is standing up for your life and fighting for your life day in, day out, like not appreciating you, you know what I mean? So I was like kind of bouncing off what Janice said about like Black women's work being overlooked, because like it's like, oh, we don't appreciate you guys, like white women appreciate you more, when they're the same ones that's racist and they're the same ones that just want to have mixed kids, you feel me? So yeah, I just want to like jump in on that.
And I wanted to jump in on like what we had said, because in no way, shape, or form, but like I feel like our culture is so easily offendable. Like in no way, shape, or form we're coming for people, but we're more so putting it out there how it is. If you get offended, I mean, that's more so a personal problem. I feel like it's a problem within society that everybody's so easily offendable. Like we can spit stuff out, but we can dish things to others, but we can't take back what we done dished out. Like it's easy to be like get offended, but sometimes the truth has to be accepted, and that's what we do on this platform is we talk about the truth, and the truth has to be brought to light, because what is done in the dark will always come to the light.
Yeah. And one other thing, because you were talking about Black women doing the work. Now, let's just be honest. There are Black men out on the streets doing the work too. We are not seeing them. We are not praising them and their efforts. There are Black men who are, standing up for women, going shop to shop, like the New Era Chicago that I've seen. When people disrespect Black women in these stores, they're going and they're showing up. So we have to acknowledge when it's being done, right? But what I will say is, a lot of times there are things that Black girls and Black women can do that our men can't. Most of the time when we show up to these protests, it's because another Black body has been dropped, and we're angry and we're irate about something, and we're trying to see systemic changes, right? And of course, those who are not here with us cannot be the ones standing up and fighting too. There are things that our men are targeted. I mean, and we have to acknowledge that they're targeted in some of these spaces, so they can't really move freely like Black women sometimes can. On the caveat, we do understand that when there are injustices, say for instance, when George Floyd was killed and then Breonna Taylor, George Floyd got more attention. And they were both egregious, right? But his people, the people who did that to him, have been arrested. The people that did that to her have faced no consequence as of yet. The Joker's got a book. one of the officers that did that has a book deal. So we do have to call that out, and we have to talk about that. There are different ways that society treats us when these things happen. And so our job is to actually look at it and say, okay, we have to close this gap between the two of us, both Black men and Black women. And then we have to learn to move lock and step and stop allowing people to come in and place doubt. We have to stop allowing Black women to develop organizations on the deaths of Black men and not funnel the money to their parents. Period. We have to stop that. We have to stop lifting people up who are coming in and intentionally destroying our communities. We have to call that out. And if Tamir Rice's mom has a problem with activists benefiting off the death of her son, we have to be like, yeah, we should have a problem too. You know why? Because it's not our son. It's not our son. They have to deal with the trauma of no longer having that person in their life. And we cannot continue to elevate people in our community who are doing things that the families are telling you are detrimental. And that goes for Black women and Black men, both of them. Ambulance chasers, these people who continue to show up every time a Black person dies so that they can work on a settlement in the best interest of their pockets. We have to call that out too. And as a community, we have to be intentional about calling that out. No one person speaks for everybody. We don't have no Messiah leadership in this community. Everybody gets to work. But we're not going to do that off the death of Black men. We're not doing that. And we're not going to elevate ourselves because no one person is bigger than the collective. And we have to understand that. That's just my 2 cents. Anybody have anything else to add? Because we are running out of time. No, we could just put a period in that. Okay, cool. So, if you like this podcast, we have about, 3 more episodes left in June, and we're going to take a break until the next school year. Follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Get caught up if you've missed any of our previous episodes. We would like to also inform you that we are having a celebration weekend, June 18th and 19th. Here in Sacramento. We have our prom event on Friday the 18th and our Black grad on Saturday the 19th. I've seen people posting angry faces on our announcements on Facebook and Instagram. You keep doing it, I'm going to screenshot it and show everybody. Because this is a time for celebration. We're going to celebrate our kids and we're going to celebrate ourselves, and we don't care if you don't like it, period. So with that, we're going to hit y'all. We appreciate you being here before we hit you with the wave. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you rocking with us for now 16 weeks or 17 weeks. We're on our 17th week. Janice, you got something real quick?
And don't forget to get your Black versus the Board of Education shirt at bylp.org.
Yep, you can get your shirt and everything. Come support the young ladies, support our podcast. We do it because we believe that in empowering the voices of young people to tell you how they're feeling. And if you don't like it, that's your problem, not theirs. So with that, we're going to hit you with the wave. We'll see you next Monday. Same time, same bad channel, 4 o'clock live, Facebook and YouTube. 1, 2, 3. We're going to hit you with that wave. We'll see you next time. Take care.